First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
All right, explain the controversy happening in Herkimer County.
Well, I still fully don't stand it, but from what we know at this point, there has been incidents where allegedly dogs have not been allowed to be chipped, and I really don't want to go into too much because I do not know as much as Greg may be willing to tell us. Greg Foster is the former Herkimer County Society investigator who has been relieved of his duties, and he joins us this morning.
Greg, good morning. You were in a dispute with the board at the Humane Society.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Yes, I was the investigator, and I kept getting calls from different people about their dogs coming up missing and not being able to find them. And when they called the shelter told them that they weren't there. And through my investigations, I found out that the dogs were indeed there. The board had either judged the people by their lifestyle or, the dog getting loose more than once, feeling it was neglect, or if the dog had any fleas or anything like that. They judged the people so they wouldn't get the dogs back. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but there were 4 cases I had. One was a Great Pyrenees that was literally taken out of the backyard of a local guy. Allegedly. And so I got the evidence. There were photographs of the dog being at the shelter. I interviewed several people at the shelter. The board had total knowledge of it. They were hiding the dogs in the garage when people come to claim them. One case, the dog was chipped, and that's the one that brought about all the controversy now. Tucker is a ADA service dog. He's chipped. They have a license. They have rabies vaccinations. The owner had a traumatic brain injury, and through his healing process, he had to go into the hospital, the one hospital up in Utica.
Okay.
An estranged family member and a Herkimer County adult protective worker felt that it'd be necessary that the dog be surrendered to the shelter.
While he was in the hospital recovering?
Right, while he was in the hospital recovering.
Okay.
And so they took it down to the shelter. The shelter had him sign a surrender form, both the worker and the estranged family member. And but when I'm sorry, I don't want to use names.
Yeah.
When
thank you,
the owner regained his memory, he remembered his dog and he wanted his dog back. Briefly went through the process, couldn't find it, and then all of a sudden it showed up on Facebook for adoption after they had denied the owner that it was there.
What was the alleged reason for the denial?
The dog had a fatty cyst on its back leg, and when dogs have those fatty cysts, they lick them, they chew on them, and it had broken open. So they claimed that the dog wasn't getting proper care. But that's not for the, there's a protocol we have to follow. If there was
wouldn't you make that that conclusion?
Actually, yeah, Bill, that's what my job was to view the evidence, collect the evidence, turn it over to the law enforcement, and law enforcement would meet and see if there was enough probable cause for arrest. And then after the arrest, the court system determined whether the animal would go back to the owner or be retained by the shelter. Well, that process was not at all adhered to.
Okay.
They made the judgment.
Okay. So you, Andrew, have a statement from Bob Schrader. Bob is the president. He's a legislator in Herkimer County and is the president of the Herkimer County Humane Society's board. This is his statement.
He did not want, he wanted this to be read exactly as it stated. Will not be doing anything until the New York State Police investigation is finished. Thank you to all our loyal supporters. God bless you and God bless the animals. We have nothing to hide. It's just at the New York State Police doing a thorough investigation, and I don't want them to have any trouble.
Okay, what do you? I'm going to respond to that, Greg.
How this all came to a head is another girl here in Little Falls was missing her dog. She called me the next day, and because the shelter was closed, but she understood that her dog was at the shelter. So I did check, and indeed it was her dog at the shelter. But she had no way of identifying it because the dog was only 8 months old.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, paperwork on it. So I asked her, as I usually do everybody else, send me pictures of the dog if you think it's yours. So she did. She sent me pictures, and she also had a Falls police officer verify that it was her dog. And they called the shelter and verified it for the managers down there. And so we went ahead and got the rabies vaccination and a license because it's ag and market. You have to have those so they can leave the shelter. So she did everything right, and they put her through a bunch of hoops. So she went down there to claim her dog. It was on the 5th day, I believe. And the law says that we have to retain the animal for 7 days if we know who the owner is. So we went down, she went down to claim her animal. She called me in tears, crying, carrying on, said she had to call the state police. So I stopped what I was doing. I went down to the shelter and asked why I wasn't able to get her dog. I was told by one of the board members, I won't use names, I was told by one of the board members that is not proof enough for her dog. And we've done this several times. I mean, over and over. I mean, we've had people just walk in and say, yeah, that's my dog, and nobody asked any questions whatsoever. They get a licensed rabies vaccination, and they're on their way.
So Greg, is the implication here, alleged implication here, that the Humane Society is picking and choosing who they feel is worthy of, or who they deem to be, responsible enough to be in the possession of certain dogs?
Well, they already do that before you can adopt a pet. But this is a little different because this is
we've seen something that may be awry.
Taking the dog away from a family that already has the pet. Am I correct with that?
You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And what happens a lot of times is like the dog that had the cyst that was broken over. They took a picture of that animal, put it on Facebook, and begged the public for donations. And they get several thousands of dollars of people's heartstrings just donating to these animals, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But then they turn around and they charge the towns the 5 days that they're contracted for, which is kind of double dipping. And then they turn around and get a adoption fee on top of that. So it's not only are they judging the people and the owners of the dogs, but they're making money on this. And to me, it's not. All
right, and you had an altercation with the board. I mean, an argument with the board, and you ended up stepping down, or they dismissed you.
Well, what happened was after that incident, I wrote the whole board, a letter and an email demanding their resignation for breaking criminal law, their own policies, and ag and markets laws. The next day, I was served by the sheriff with a letter of dismissal.
Okay. All right. So stand by. I want to bring in, goes by Mr. Nice Guy. I didn't realize this, but he is an animal control officer. Oops, I lost him. Can we get him back, Davey? I thought I had locked him in.
I'm still here.
Okay, go ahead. What's your take on this? You, for the purpose of full disclosure, you have worked or are currently working as an animal control officer.
Oh, this is Mr. Nice Guy. We have him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked as an animal control officer for 6 years, yes.
Okay. So what's your take on this?
So my take on this goes back 20 years ago, 2004, 2005, 2006-ish, when the Herkimer County Humane Society board members, several of them, approached me to go to and steal greyhound dogs up on Mucky Run Road that they deemed that owner was not a good owner and those dogs should be taken from them.
They asked you to steal the dogs?
They asked me to participate in stealing these dogs. They ended up getting a greyhound rescue from Connecticut that came in, and now it's alleged, this is only hearsay, I heard through the members that they did indeed take 2 puppies out of that Mucky Run Road property.
So those greyhounds would be used for a lot of people stealing greyhounds because they end up being used at racetracks. And I think there's one in New England and.
Yes, I believe these dogs came off of the track, and part of the thing when they come off of the track is they're supposed to be spayed and neutered. You're not supposed to be able to release these dogs because it takes away from somebody's pocket. These dogs weren't. Somehow they were breeding these dogs with huskies, and I'm telling you that there's 2 commonalities here, and the 2 commonalities are still the 2 people sitting on that board.
All right.
Today. They were there 20 years ago.
Greg, I wanted to add is I've got like 30 seconds left. What do you want people to know today?
I just want people to know that the staff in the shelter, they're excellent people down there. The problem lies in the board itself.
Okay.
They've been governing so long, they think they're bulletproof.
They're untouchable.
Right. Invincible. All right. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. We'll dig more into this and talk with you again soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys.